Any question on a questionnaire has two parts. It has the actual question that you ask, like, do you like UV? And it has the response categories, yes or no, strongly agree to strongly disagree, sometimes, most of the time, never. So any question that you have in a questionnaire has, I got this on, darling, yeah, two parts. The question you ask and then the response categories. Now, believe it or not, how you design the response categories is very important. What you put for the person to respond to is what I'm going to spend mostly all of this today talking about. How you develop those response categories, because it's important. And any good quantitative researcher understands at least the basics of that. So that's why we're going to talk about that today. Yeah? Now, before I define what measurement is, if I ask you on a questionnaire and anytime you get bombarded and you tired in this lecture, say just stop, man, because it's a lot, right? I can watch your faces and I can try to see when you're dying and we can go from there. You be there now, you think, right? All right. Now, measurement. When I ask you, how old are you? Right? When I ask you how many times a day you does bathe, the got some people is bathe 4 times a day. You bathe this morning. Might bathe tonight. When I ask a man, all right, how old are you? How many times you does bathe? You can say 1. You might say 3. Gina might be running up she mother water bill a day and she might say it 4 or 5 times. I have a friend like that. She said she's get hot quick, she's bathed every 5 minutes. What I'm really measuring there is your attitude. Let's talk about the bath. To feeling clean. All right? How you define what clean is. He might say, for me, we bathe once a day, but what else you got to do? A friend of mine confessed to me that they live over in the way, and you know, over in some places, people don't bathe every day. And she had a culture shock when she realized that her husband does only bathe once a week, used to, before they got married. So they had to sort that out. That's their culture. On Saturdays. But we can't get away with that out here because we will walk about smelling like a bank holiday bear. Right? But what he sees as clean, how clean is measured in his mind, it's very different to how, if Gina bathing 4 times a day, clean is measured in her mind. When I ask you how old are you, and you tell me 21, and she tell me 15, right? I'm measuring how much experience you have had on this side of heaven, because I know that a 21-year-old has seen more, done more, and may have a different perspective on life than a 15-year-old. And it's very important to measure things like age and gender in marketing research, because consumers are often conditioned in their buying behavior based on how old they are or how old they aren't, and who the mother is and there's so many things that condition us. So it's very important to know what your age is, because how you might respond to a particular promotion campaign might be different. If you tell me he was 50, you might like everything on Instagram, but at 21, he might be on to Facebook. So y'all get what I'm saying? Every property or every question that you see on a questionnaire is measuring some amount of property in you. How many years on this side of heaven? How do you perceive what clean means? So every question is a measuring instrument, because it measures and it differentiates. Because if you're a different age to me or you bathe a different amount of times, that is a point of differentiation. And folks, it is on differentiation that segments are defined. True? Because we look to see if people fall in particular segments and if they want a different marketing mix. So how are we going to define them if we don't use measuring tools to do the differentiation? All right? So a measurement is really the foundation of questionnaire design, because every question on a questionnaire is measuring a different property in you. You get what I'm saying? Whether it be a demographic property, whether it be a psychographic property, whether it be a behavioral property, whether it be an attitude, whether it be a perception, every question is measuring something. And you know where you get to tell me what your measure is? You get to tell me what your measure is at the response category. I ask you the question, and then what I give you to respond to is where you get to tell me what your measurement is. That is why defining the response categories properly is so important. Y'all get what I'm saying? All right? Because it's at that point that I measure you and differentiate you from Jeffrey and Pamela and Dawn. All right? So let's now talk about measurement. Next week we're going to get into real questionnaire design. But today we're going to look at how you develop those response categories. Because what you put there is what you're going to get back. I have met too many students who develop, for example, what I call nominal scales, and come to tell me that they want me to let them do statistical procedures that require an interval scale or higher. And I said, darling, all you can do with this is cross tabulations and chi-square tests, because the response category was limited from the start. So you can't get high-level statistical responses out of a low-level response category. That is why we like to spend a lot of time thinking about the actual question we're going to ask. But more important for me is what did you allow the person to respond to? Because depending on the level of statistical precision that you want, you have to shape the response category to suit. You all get me? Is everybody still on the same page? You ain't done yet? Okay, so let's look at the first few slides. So I have said that measurement is determining how much of a property is possessed by an individual, an object, an entity. Sometimes you just go and do a survey for an entire hospital. That's not an individual, that's an entity. There will be somebody in the hospital responding on the hospital's behalf on the questionnaire. Like, how many beds in this hospital? And somebody got to write down 290. All right? But you are actually measuring, for example, capacity for the hospital by measuring how many beds they have. Right? You'll be measuring that property then of capacity. All right? And those things will be important for whatever reason, I don't know. All right? So I said every item on a questionnaire is measuring some property. Now, we as researchers, we measure objective properties and we measure subjective properties. Objective properties are things that are physically verifiable. Musa told me he's a guy. Somebody can strip him down and make sure that he has a penis. That is physically verifiable. Gay told me that he was born in 1982. And I can check the records and prove that there was a young man named Jeffrey Gay, born to whosoever in 1982. Those are objective, physically verifiable properties. Subjective properties now are things that I cannot physically verify. I have to take your word for it. If you say to me, I hate marketing research, I can't break open your brain to find out if you're telling me the truth. You get what I'm saying? You are expressing a feeling, a perception, an attitude. That is a subjective property. Up until this point in this class, we have said that you measure subjective properties by doing interviews and focus groups and open-ended questions on questionnaires, right? Today, I want to show you a middle ground. I want to show you how you can actually measure a subjective property in a quantitative way. Why we want to be able to do that as researchers? Because it would appear to be more objective and more defendable. So I'm going to take you from now just measuring subjective properties using what we call open-ended questions to actually using scales to measuring subjective properties. Are you still with me? Huh? Good. Now, there are 4 basic levels of measurement: nominal, interval, ordinal, and ratio scales. You can either give the person a nominal response category, or an ordinal response category, or an interval response category, or a ratio response category. All right? So you can write the question. It could be the same question, and they could give it a nominal response category, or an ordinal response category, or an interval response category, or a ratio response category. So when I talk about scales, I'm actually talking about the various response categories that you can use. Are you still with me? Good. Now, I want to tell you now what a scale or response category is. All right? It is a continuum. Actually, the nominal scale is not a continuum. That is why it's so limited. But I will demonstrate that for you in a minute. A scale is a continuum on which objects are located according to the amount of measured characteristic that they possess. If I take an interval scale, for example, which is the 3rd level of scale, an interval scale. And I will say, I like pizza. Strongly agree, agree, neither agree nor disagree. Disagree, strongly disagree. What say you, Don? Where are you on this scale? Strongly agree. What about you, Pamela? Huh? Agree. What about you? Agree. Anybody disagrees? They don't like pizza? Hey. Let's wait the time about the non-communicable diseases. All right. Anybody agree somewhat? Everybody up in here. Now, suppose this was an old person, like my old grandmother who's dead now, and she said, pizza, yeah, pizza, and breadfruit, and yeah. All right? I would have put her here on the scale, on the continuum, in terms of liking. She has no liking for pizza at all. Don now will be at this end of the scale on the continuum. He has a lot of liking for pizza. All right? So these are actually the response categories I would have given you. But I would have located each of you. If I sample 100 people, I would have had 100 of these X's, locating you in terms of how much liking. The property I'm measuring here is how much liking you have for pizza. And I would have been able to locate you at some point on that interval scale. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. That scale is a continuum on which objects are located according to the amount of measured characteristics that they possess. In this case, liking for pizza. Y'all still with me? Yes. And I said there are 4 types of scales. There are 4 types of response categories. And this is the interval response category here. Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now, remember I said to you that sometimes you will put down a nominal response category, but you want to do high-level statistical procedures with it. The lower level, the response category, or the least sophisticated, the less sophistication in the response category, the less statistical procedures you can do with it. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And nominal scales are the least sophisticated of all the measuring scales, or all the response categories. They're the least sophisticated. And ratio is the most sophisticated. You could do any types of statistical procedures with a ratio scale. All right. Unfortunately, though, you will realize as we go through this lecture that there are many times where you can't use a ratio scale because the persons who you're putting the scale before, they're not going to respond to it. They're not going to answer because it might be a sensitive question, and if you ask it to them in a ratio fashion, you will never get a response. So sometimes you just go back down to a weaker scale and be satisfied with lower level statistical results because people will not respond to a ratio scale. Y'all still with me? So now I'm going to go through the properties of these scales. All right? There are 4 properties. The nominal scale only has the first property. The ordinal scale has the first 2. The interval scale has the first 3. And the ratio scale has all 4. In other words, the more properties the scale has, the more you can do with it. Are y'all still following me? Anything you ain't stopped us, I don't get it. All right? So these are the scale properties. These are the scale properties. All right? Description, order, distance, origin. Now I'm going to say this now and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to repeat it again. All right? So don't get too perturbed if you don't get it the first time. Worry about if you don't get it the second time, and then I'll be prepared to say it one more time. All right? Good. Now, description. Description. This refers to the use of a unique descriptor for each designation in the scale. All descriptors are all the possible response options. All the possible response options. So if you have a scale like this, I let you read yes or no. Does this scale have description? Or does this question have description? Yeah, because it has two descriptors. It has something that you can respond to. And folks, says all nominal scales have. They have something that you can respond to. All right? Now, I want to show you something about nominal scales. I'll say it again, but I want to show you something. Now, I just showed you an interval scale, strongly agree, agree, let's say agree somewhat, disagree, strongly disagree. And I said you can be located on a continuum, somewhere on this continuum. Do you see a continuum on this scale? On the top scale, do you see a continuum there? No. Because if it was a continuum, it would be yes, maybe, no. Y'all get what I'm saying? It would be yes, maybe, no, and I could see the continuum there. That is the thing about nominal scales. Nominal scales have no continuum. You see, the continuum is ways allow you to enhance your statistical precision. Nominal scales just have mutually exclusive groupings. So this is how you will graph. You see like how you can graph this here from, say, strongly agree down to strongly disagree? No. With a nominal scale, all you have are mutually exclusive groups. What percentage said yes, they like UE might be 35%, and what percentage said no, they don't like UE, 65%. These are the no's, these are the yeses. There is no connection between them. They're not on a continuum. They're in mutually exclusive groups. That's why with nominal scales, all you can work out are frequencies and percentages. What percentage said yes? Or what percentage said no. All right, and that property of description alone allows you to put people in mutually exclusive groupings, but you cannot put them on any continuum. They're either in one group or they're either in another. And because nominal scales have this description only, that only allow you to describe, can I describe you as a yes man, or can I describe you as a no woman? All I can do with nominal scales, because they're not on a continuum, is calculate frequencies or percentages. How many persons in this group out here, and how many persons in this group out here? No connection. It's the same thing with a gender question. Are you male or female? What's the connection in between the two of them? You either got a penis or you got a corny little girl vagina. All right, and you might also see questions on a questionnaire like, which income range are you in? Are you in $0 to $1,000 per month? Are you in 1,001 to 2,000? Are you in 2,001 to 3,000? No connection between them. Those are mutually exclusive ranges and groups. All right, because you're either in one block. I don't know if you 0, if you 999, or if you 1000, or you're in another block. All right, so even though income would seem to be something that you can put on a continuum, because I haven't asked you what your income is, and you could put down 0, and they could put down 20, and somebody could put 30, and they can put it on a continuum, because I have put you in a range, 0 to 20, 21 to 30, I have broken the continuum. I have put you in a mutually exclusive blocking. So that is the removal of the continuum, all right, makes this a nominal scale only with mutually exclusive groups. Are y'all still following me? You lost, Mr. Okay, good. So all a nominal scale has is description without any continuum, where you can either be in one mutually exclusive group or the other, and all I can do is count how many persons in group 1, how many persons in group 2. That is a count or a frequency, and then I can work out a percentage. Because if I ask 100 of you and 70 say yes, the frequency is 70 out of the 100, the percentage is 70%. That's all nominal scales allow me to do. Are you still with me? Is anybody lost? Don't be afraid to say it. The second scale property is order. Is order. When I look back at this scale here, do I see the persons who say yes being more important than the persons who say no? Do the persons who say yes, or is yes as a descriptor here more important than no? No. Yes and no are equal. You either are yes man or no man. I see no level of importance there. Yes is not given any higher ranking as a descriptor than is no. All right? But look at the power here now. Ordinal scales not only have description, they have what we call size or importance or ranking. So you are getting more out of that description, because it is not only a describer now, it is a ranker. It is setting up a hierarchy. So I can get more statistical meaning out of an ordinal scale than I can get out of a nominal scale. Are you still with me? Are you still with me? Huh? No? Okay, let me say that again. With a nominal scale, all I have is description. Yes is the same as no. Yes is ranked no higher than no. But I want my descriptors to tell me as much as possible about the persons I'm sampling. If I set up an ordinal scale not only has the yes or no, but it tells me if yes is more highly ranked than no. So now I not only know how to describe you, I know if yes is more highly ranked than no. So ordinal scales have not only description, they have order, so they're more powerful. You understand? You got that? All right. So as I said, ordinal scales have what? They have description and they have order, so they're more powerful. They're more powerful. I now know which descriptor is better, more important to the consumer than another, so it tells me more about the consumer. All right? So let me show you now a scale which has order in it. Right? The following foods in order of preference. Pizza, chicken and chips, oh, there's a hard one. Macaroni pie. What else we should put here? Can we put anything else into that list? Oh, stop it. Salad. Salad. Huh? Barbecue pigtails. Yeah, I would agree. BBQ pig. Hard to find nowadays. All right. I want you to rank those for me in order of preference. What you prefer most? Don't be afraid to say chicken and chips.
Chicken and chips.
I know. Me too. 1. What's 2? Mm-hmm. Oh, my salad is at the bottom. She doesn't like salad. So, I not only have description on this scale, I'm describing your food preferences. But I'm also seeing, I'm describing the foods you could possibly choose from, right? But I'm also seeing how you prefer one over the other. Right? So I not only know how to say this. I'm not only able to find out how you feel about certain foods. I know how you see foods one versus the other. Here, I would have, with the other scale, it would be how you feel about certain foods only. Do I like pizza, yes or no? Do I like, so I would have had to have asked 5 questions here. Do you like pizza, yes or no? Do you like chicken and chips, yes or no? That is the nominal. Do you like salad, yes or no? All I would have been able to walk away with is you saying yes, 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 or no, no, no. This young lady probably would have said yes to these 4 and maybe no to the salad because she ranked that as a 5. Or she might have said yes to all. And all I would have walked away with the nominal scale is, does she like pizza, yes? Does she like salad, no? But here, I can see not only whether she likes them or not, but I can see what? The order. How one descriptor is pizza more higher ranked than chicken and chips? Are y'all still following me? Huh? You still with me? Right? So this scale has more power than that. Because I've put them now on a continuum of preference. I've put them on a continuum of preference. Yes. How else could it work? Because right now, this is what I'm doing with this young. Look, this one. If rank only works with a continuum, because let me see if this will help you. With this young lady now that ranked, I know that if I'm on a scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all right, and I'm looking at preference, her number 1 would be the chicken and chips. And her number 2 would be macaroni pie. So I am able to put her preferences on a continuum. I can't do that with the nominal scale. I would have just been able to say, is pizza in her yes group or in her no group? Okay? Is salad in her yes group or in her no group? Mutually exclusive groups. But I can't put them on a continuum because I didn't establish any relationship between them. Up here, with the yes or no, I like pizza. Yes or no. There's the nominal scale. I like chicken and chips. Yes or no. So she's either in the yes box here or the no box for chicken and chips. She's either in the yes box here for pizza or she's in the no box. Okay, so that would be mutually exclusive groups. Here, I can, because I have established a continuum where I can rank one higher or lower than the other on this scale, and I have no continuum, I know more about her. I don't only know which one she likes, I know which one she likes better or more than the others. You got that? Good. So, ordinal scales, yes? is what I will tell you, right? That is where we can talk about the interval scale. Because really and truthfully, you're raising an important point, Mr. Frederick. Do I know on that scale that 3 means yes, or do I know if that means no? I can assume it might mean yes. I could assume that salad means no. All right? So the ordinal scale still has some limitations.
Well, now, what do you have to verify when you're wording your question? What do you have to say?
Let me show you something now. Let me show you something. Let me show you why the interval scale is more powerful. And I can say this again, don't worry. Interval scales have description, order, and distance. Description, order, and distance. All right? Let me show you what I mean by that. So far, this has unique descriptors, so it has description, and then I put them in a ranking, so that has order. All right? Let's look at the interval scale. No worry, folks, that came in late. I'll say this all over again in a minute. What's the next one? Interval scales have description, order, and distance. Scales have distance when absolute differences between descriptors are known and may be expressed in units. Distance between descriptors are usually equal or assumed to be equal. So with an interval scale, this is how I would ask it, look. I like pizza. Strongly agree. Agree. Agree somewhat. Disagree. Strongly disagree. Strongly agree. Agree. Agree somewhat. Disagree. Strongly. If I'm assuming that my descriptors have distance, I'm assuming that there's an equal distance between them. That was not present in the ordinal scale. I didn't know if when you rated chicken and chips as a 1, if you say you like that twice as much as pizza. But because I am enforcing equal distances here, I might call that a 1. That will have to be a 2, that would be a 3, that would be a 4, that would be a 5. Or I might call that a 5. If I call that 5, then that is a 4, then that is a 3, then that is a 2, then that is a 1. Depending on how you want to decide your scale. So if I call this a 5, or I call that 50, then that's 40, then that's 30, then that's 20, then that's 10. I have established here what a continuum, but what else have I established? That there are equal distance between the descriptors. So watch here now. Frederick, watch here now. If you rank pizza for me, you might say that you strongly agree that you like pizza. All right, let me let you do it again, actually. Rank it for me. You say chicken and chips, you will put strongly agree there? Yeah. Your number 2 was what? Macaroni pie? Where would you put, what would you put? Strongly agree, agree? Agree. What about your pizza rating? Strongly agree? You told me pizza was 2? Oh. It was 3. So how you could strongly agree that pizza and macaroni pie that was your 2 is not an agree? In other words, what is this scale doing? It is causing her to really think. All right? So it's probably giving me a more truthful picture of her because it's causing her to do more. So let's do it. So you say this is a 5, there's a 4, there's a 4. You say pizza is a 5 again. What about the barbecue pigtails? That's a 3. And the salad would be a 4. So watch here now. This has description. It has order. Why it has order? Because I know that I can see that chicken and chips is ranked on this higher than the pizza, or on the same as the pizza, or greater than the macaroni pie. So our interval scales also have order, but more than that, they have distance. They have distance. All right? So from looking at the ordinal scale, she would have ranked salad as a 5, but maybe she might have still said yes, that she liked it. But I know now that that 5 means that it is really a no, because she disagreed. Are y'all still following me? You lost? Huh? Here, I just know that she liked it the least. Here, now I know that she don't like it. All right? So, and then one is a disagree. But when I had the ordinal scale, salad was just ranked as a 5, and I didn't know if that was a yes or if that was a no. But the beauty of the interval scale is that it has 3 properties. All right? It has description. These are the descriptors here. It has order. Depending on where you put chicken and chips on the scale and where you put pizza, I know the order of them in your mind. And then because of distance, I know, here I would have only known that you like salad the least. But here I know that you not only like salad the least, you don't like it at all, because it has crossed over onto the disagree side of the continuum. Yes?
So if I say I like pizza and chicken and chips, strongly agree for both of them, then you don't know which one I like the most. But you know
I know that if I'm looking at the order, I know that both of them share point, position 1. Then I know that macaroni salad shares position 2, so it's still ranked. And then I know it's salad down here by itself. So I still got order. And I can show you something else. Because of the ordinal scale, I forced you to put an order. I forced you to put chicken and chips as number 1. But it wasn't really number 1 in your mind, because I was only giving you one position for number 1. But when I come to the interval scale, I know that both chicken and chips and pizza are number 1. So I force a ranking on you. I learn more about you because I forced you to rank them. It wasn't just a yes or no. But by the time I get to the interval scale, right, I know exactly where they're supposed to be in mind, because I didn't force a ranking on you. All right? So as we said, as we come down, we get more and more statistical power, because these scales have more and more meaning. And I learn more and more about you. All right? So I can do statistical tests that are more precise. With an much more precise, I can do statistical tests with an interval scale than I can do with phenomenal. Are y'all still with me? All right. Now I'm going to show you something, and this scale will not look like it is a strong scale. A ratio scale not only has description, order, and distance, it has origin. Origin means that a scale has a true 0 point. A true 0 point. Now I want to go back and show you something about this interval scale. Distance between descriptors are assumed to be equal. I made the assumption that there's an equal distance between strongly agree and agree here. You gone, sir? Oh, and there's an equal distance between agree and agree somewhat. And there's an equal distance between agree somewhat. I made that assumption. With the ratio scale, it's not an assumption, it's true. It's true. So, believe it or not, this is a ratio scale here. probably should, no, let me show you a simple version, then I'll bring it back to this example. What is your age? See that? That descriptor. That's a descriptor. It has description, order, distance, and origin. Let me show you why. If I ask you what your age is, anybody in here is 20? And you put in 20 here. And I asked the mother with the baby that just shoot out the womb, how old the baby is, what was she going to tell me? He just out the womb. He's not. That is a true 0 point. And if I say that I'm 60, first of all, there's a descriptor, the actual number that you put in. There's order, because I am older than you, and you are older than the baby. There's distance, there's true distance, because let me show you now, this isn't assumed distance like the strongly agree. I'm saying the distance from strongly agree to agree is 1. There's true distance. I am 3 times as old as you, darling. And it's a real distance. And there's a true 0 point, because I can put in 0 as a response and it will be correct. And it's true. It's true. It's true that the child just shoot out the woman is not. It's true that I'm 60. It's true you're 40. That scale, even though it has no real descriptors and yada yada, the whole the way the question is asked and the fact that you can just fill in true numbers, that is a ratio scale. That seemed confusing, right? Not yet. I like this girl. That's the best. But y'all get what I'm saying, though. If I was, say, 40, I would be twice as old as the young lady here that is 20. The baby that shoot out the womb, he's the true 0 point, not he no born. Okay? So the descriptions will be the numbers you put in. The order will be that I can put the numbers in order, because 60 will be here, 20 down here, and 0 down here. The distance is a true distance. It's not an assumed distance like I said from strongly agree to agree is 1, or strongly agrees a 5 and agrees a 4. I assume that. No. It's true. All right? Because if you are here on the scale and we're going on the number line from 0 to 100, the distance here, the baby here, he on the scale, young girl here is 20, oh, he's 60, and Louisa Neblett that was just on the TV, y'all saw her on TV, she's 105. Y'all get what I'm saying? So the distance is not only there, it is true. And the scale has a true 0 point, because it's real numbers. So when you're asking people to tell you how much sales they made last year and you fill in a blank here, that is a ratio scale. Because they could say, we ain't make a cent, no. Be the just here living off of our overdraft. And another guy could say, we made $9 billion. All right? Or it could be like Alibaba, make enough money. And that is a ratio scale. And you could do any amount of statistical procedures, but that is real numbers. There's real numbers. These are scales that we make up, like, put in, yes, you and this, no. Them is real numbers. That is the reason. Because I said earlier in the class that, we would love to have a ratio scale for everything. But there's some properties that people in the mind don't think in a ratio way. All right? That's why you got to give them a strongly agree. Because suppose you ask them, rate how you feel about pizza on a scale from 0 to 100. Oh, it's 21 or it's 25. 32, they know. But if you give them, I like pizza, strongly agree, they're going to know. You understand? So there's some subjective properties you can't use a ratio scale for. And I'll show you why you have to use a nominal scale a lot. Just the point that you raised. How much people, when they see a question like that, what is your age, they're going to fill it in. They're going to be, I don't want nobody to know that I'm 55. Huh? They don't like nobody to know how old them is or how much money does make when the man come. How many persons? People don't walk around and say, oh yeah, this is my salary. What you want? Or that's what they would ask you. So that's why, even though we do not get the statistical precision that we like, we will use nominal scales to ask people those types of questions. That is why we will have a range. So the range would be, what is your age range? Or what is your income range? So now, are you 0 to 12? 13 to 15? 16 to 19? So immediately, there's no continuum between these. These are mutually exclusive groups. So all I can do with a nominal question is say, are you in this group here? I could say, well, 35% of my sample was 0 to 12. Another 40% was 13 to 15. And the remainder percent out of 100, whatever that is, 35, that is 75. So that 25% will have to be 16 to 19. You are in mutually exclusive blocks. Oh, I would have loved to let you just tell me your age, because then I could work out the average age. I could do a gazillion statistical procedures if the question was like this. But because people wouldn't want to respond, I have to back down and use a nominal scale and just be able to say this percentage was in this age range, or this percentage was in that income range. Y'all got me? Yeah. So now you can say that all over again. I'm going to say it all over again. And this is just to reiterate what I just said about nominal scales. We use numerals to identify objects or groups. So when you have a nominal scale, and it's are you male or female, you're either in one mutually exclusive group or the other, or do you like ice cream, yes or no, or what is your age range, 13 to 15, 16 to 19, 20 to 29, all mutually exclusive groups. The same way I assign a number to the strongly agree, I have to assign a number to them. So if you say you are male, I would call that a yes, and a no. If you say you're a female, if you say you're a male, I'll put that 1. If you say you're a female, I'll call that 2. Because when I go to SPSS, every time I get a response from a female, I don't type in female. And every time I get a response from a male, I don't type in male. What y'all just do that did SPSS? Every time you come a male, you would type in a 1. And every time you come a female, you would type in a 2. All right? So all you are doing is using numerals to identify objects. 1 identifies male, 2 identifies female. Because really and truthfully, folks, you can't do statistical procedures on words. You can only do them on numbers. These are assumed numbers. The ordinal scale, assumed numbers. The interval scale, assumed numbers. But by the time you get to the ratio scale, real numbers. Assumed numbers. So I'm assuming a 1 for male and assuming a 2 for female. All right? So I use them for classifying objects. You're either in this group with this income range, or you're either that income range group, or you're in either that no relationship. And I said they're description only. I'm just describing you. I can describe you as a male or as a female. I can describe you as being in this income range or in that income range. I can describe you as saying that you yes to that question, or I can describe you as saying no. And all I can do with those scales, because they're not on a continuum, because you're in a mutually exclusive group, is figure out what was the frequency for that group, what was the frequency for this, what was the frequency. All I can do with a nominal scale is calculate percentages. So I would go around my class now, and if they got 40 in here, I don't know, 55% might be female. So that would be how much out of the 40 I know. And then so much percent would be the male. That would be the rest out of the 40. That's all I can do with nominal scales. Any questions? Weak scales, but necessary scales. We recognize that there are times people will not be able to answer a racial scale, or they will not want to. All right? So let's now move on again now to these ordinal scales. These ordinal scales not only have description, they have what? Order or ranking. They have order or ranking. Okay? And that's going back to the pizza example where they put chicken and chips as 1, whatever else is 2, etc. Now, they're more powerful because I'm not only able to describe you in terms of food, I'm able to see how you rank one versus the other. All right? Now, ordinal scales, you move up from just calculating frequencies and percentages. You can calculate medians or percentiles. All right? So, rate Sandyland, rate the following hotels in order of preference. That's what I got there. Royal Westmoreland. Give me 2 more. 2 more. Oh, Accra. And, oh, Crane. Yeah, I like the Crane, boy. I don't like the breakfast so much though. It's not as nice as Hilton, but I still like the place. All right, you rank them for me here now, Andrea. You prefer the Crane to Sandyland? Well, I never even been to Sandyland, so I can't even speak. To Sandyland, Oh? Yeah. Good. Now, which of these have the median ranking? Which of these have the median ranking? All right. So you're able now to put the descriptors at particular positions. All right. And you hear about things like what is in the top 25th percentile. You've heard of people talking about ranking schools and ranking people in their class. Sometimes they ask me to rank you against your classmates when I'm writing a reference. Was the person in the top 1%? All right. So were you up there and everybody else was down there, or were you in the top 25%? So the ranking allows you to put the descriptors at a particular position. All right, and medians and percentiles are position statistics. With a yes or no, what, yes and no, I don't know. Yes equals yes or no equals no. But here now we can put the descriptors in position. So y'all remember medians and stuff like that from statistics, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's only obvious that is not a proper scale. Because really and truthfully, I can't respond to the scale because I never even went to Sandyland. He says, what about if it has to do with a person's financial status? Because really, that scale is really putting together apples and oranges. Because the average person wouldn't have experienced all of those. If I really wanted a proper scale, I would probably put, like for the rich folks, I would have put the Sandyland, the Royal Westmoreland, maybe the Crane. True? All right. So that's not a good scale. That's a scale I designed, but it's poor. Thanks for pointing it out to the class. It's a poor scale. Because for me now, I never went to Sandyland. I only pass it, and I have a few relatives who work there, and there's only work on the golf course. They never want the big boys. So them can't tell me what's going on in there neither. They just drive the tractor and all type of thing. So I can't speak. So you'll be forcing me to write something that I don't even know about. All right? Yeah. All right. Let's now look at the interval scale, which I said has what? Three properties, which is description, order, and distance. Right. An interval scale is obtained by arranging objects along a continuum with respect to how much of a property they possess. And it's not here, no, I'm just ranking. I actually know whether you are at the point of 1, where you strongly agree, or whether you're at the point of 3. Here, this is assumed. It's just a ranking. But with interval scales, you know. All right? And the beauty of the interval scale is that you can now begin to calculate means, average feeling, means. All right? Let me show you why that is so beautiful. Remember, so far I'm just showing you ranking one person, but this would have been asked to 100 people. All right? So the median ranking then would have been maybe an average of the responses, an average of where 100 people put Royal Pavilion. Here I was just showing it for you. But if I did it for the 100, I would have worked out what is the average position that Royal Pavilion was given over the 100 people. You got that? All right. So if we now look at the interval scale, watch how you can calculate a mean. Watch how you can calculate this mean now. I like Sandy Lane. Strongly agree, agree somewhat, disagree, strongly disagree. I like Royal Pavilion. I'll just do 3. I like the Crane. Watch how you can calculate the average now, going across the class. So if I ask an ordinal question, I will calculate an average position. But the beauty with the interval scale is that I ain't calculating an average position, I'm calculating an average. And an average is more powerful than an average position, which is what the interval scale will give me. It will give me an average. Now let me show you why. And the mean and the average is the same thing, folks. Are y'all still with me? Remember, I told you this is the most difficult part you would have encountered in this course so far. Because it takes a different kind of thinking to wrap your head around it. So don't beat it this time. Make God go home and read. All right, now look here. Let me go around the class now. Any person can speak on Sandy Lane, Royal Pavilion, and the Crane, besides Brathwaite. All right, let me let you rank Brathwaite. Come, Brathwaite. Sandy Lane. You don't like it? But you ranked it as what? So disagree. Royal Pavilion. Agree somewhat. Crane. Strongly agree. Anybody else can speak? Let me hear you, Pamela. You know these things. So here, because we can make this a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, depending on your preference, or we can make it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's call it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. You gotta keep these scales the same thing. You can't put this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Strongly agree must mean the same thing all around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So far for Andre, all right, he has rated Pamela. And I could do this for the whole 100 people who are doing it. So Andre has rated Sandy Lane a 4, Royal Pavilion a what? A 3, and the Crane a 1. Let me hear you know, Pamela. Mm-hmm. 2. Give me 1. All right, do it, Dawn, just for doing it. Say you're the third responder. So let me hear you. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. A 2. Watch the real average here. No, they're not average position here. There's an average. Check Sandy Lane average. 4 plus 3, 7 and 1 is 8 divided by 3. What's Sandy Lane average rating? 3 into 8 is 2, remainder. Remainder what 2? And 3 into 20 is what? Right. So Sandy Lane is somewhere about here on the scale. We could assume that was not just 3 people, that was 300 people. All right? Royal Pavilion is 3 and 2 is 4 and 4 is 9 divided by 3. So Royal Pavilion somewhere about here on the scale. And then Crane is 5 divided by 3 is what? 1 point something. So 1.6. So Crane's average is 1.6. Sandy Lane's average is 2.6. And Royal Pavilion's average is what? 3. Which of those hotels is most preferred? Huh? The Crane. Because I have made 1 strongly agree. So the closest that I have it to 1, all right, that is the most preferred. If I have ordered the scale going in the other direction, the average that would have been closest to 5 would have been the most preferred. So it's just a matter how you set up an interval scale. You could set it up however you want. All right? But because I have something called equal distance between the descriptors, I can calculate a mean. Because I get close to the number line now. They're assumed numbers, but I can calculate a mean. There was no equal distance in the ordinal scale. And there was no distance between them at all in the nominal scale because they were mutually exclusive groups. There was distance between them in the ordinal scale, but I didn't assume it was equal, so I don't have the power. But from the time I get to the interval scale and I put equal distance between them descriptors, I am kind of like mimicking the number line, and I can calculate a mean. You have that? Y'all got that? You still with me now? Yeah, good. Now I want to talk to you about what variance is. Variance. How many persons in here ever heard the term variance before? You heard it in statistics, right? What they told you it was? Looka. Oh, Lord help us. That was too far back, man. I understand what it means to be a university student. Sometimes you just forget a lot of what you learn because it happens so quickly. That is why, thank God, you should do the courses in order. You know, you do the prerequisite courses first. No one is going to banner register for whatever they feel like. I got people doing marketing research. They never do a research members course yet. That's something that applies to some of y'all, ain't it? You should do the research methods courses first. All right. 2 courses to graduate and no doing English for academic purposes. Help us all. That seems now to be the norm. We can do that last. All right. Compromising your ability to do better in the other courses, by the way. All right, let's move on. No, I ain't pulling up this morning. Please be. All right, an interval scale is obtained by arranging objects along continuum. Y'all still with me on that, right? Good. All right. Now, I want to talk to you about what variance and standard deviation is. ASWs agree somewhat. Now, you can only do this variance with an interval scale or an ordinal. Because all the statistical procedures that you can do with the scale before, you can do with the scale after. You got that? Right. So only means and variances can be calculated with interval or ratio. But you can't do it with a, you can't do it with an ordinal or a nominal. Sorry, thanks for that. So I like pizza. Right? Good. Now, I could survey 6 people, right? Let's say that I surveyed 6 persons, okay, in first year. and I surveyed 6 staff members at UB. Y'all still with me? So when I asked them if they like pizza the first years, I got one. Those were the responses I got. I got 4 persons agreeing somewhat, 1 person agreeing, and 1 person disagreeing. Right? Good. Now, what is the mean here? 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 and 12 is what? 18. And when I divide that by 6, what are you going to get with me as the mean? 3. So this is the calculated mean here, or the average. So if I had to look at that graphically, I will have a 1 here, a 5 here, a 2, a 3, and a 4. This is my calculated mean. They told you about things like mu and those types of things, right? Sounding familiar? Right. So if it was for the whole population, that would be my mu. Or if I had a sample mean, what is that called? S bar, right? S bar. In this case, this would be the S bar. And that is 3. Now watch the actual responses around this calculated mean. I would have had 3 here. I would have had 1 here. 4 there, sorry. And I would have had 1 there. So this is my calculated mean, and this is the dispersion of my actual responses around it. All right? Watch these foolish staff members at UB now. Strongly agree, agree, agree somewhat, disagree, strongly disagree. I had 3 persons strongly agreeing, which is a 1, and I had 3 persons strongly disagreeing. Them does good at gym. So them playing them don't like no pizza, telling lies. That is another thing about questionnaires, people tell lies. Are you still with me, Miss Grazette? Good. So what is the mean here? 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3, and 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is 15. So what is the mean? Huh? Still 3. So this dispersion looks like this, look. This is the calculated mean here. And this is the dispersion of the results. 1. Now, this is what I want to tell you, right? Do most of these UB staff members agree somewhat? Huh? Do most of the UB staff members agree somewhat that they like ice cream, pizza? What we really got happening there? We got a lot of people out here that hate it. We got some people out here equal that like it. But when we work out the average, it looked like, really and truthfully, UB staff members agree somewhat. In a case like this, right? I won't realize I have 2 separate segments. I would think that everybody not lobbing here in the middle. That ain't true. All that is a calculation. That's why sometimes the mean does trick here. And to prevent the mean from tricking you, just have to work out the standard deviation. Because the standard deviation does tell you how close the actual responses is up under the calculated mean. The closer the responses are up under the calculated mean, the more meaningful the mean is, because it's a true representation of what the actual responses said. This mean here is not a true representation. It's tricking you. So you want a small standard deviation. The standard deviation is the dispersion of the actual responses around the calculated mean. So the smaller the dispersion is, the more I know that the actual response is really up under the mean, and that mean is really a true representation. So I can more agree that most of the persons who are students tend to agree more like somewhat, and these responses are close. All right, so the standard deviation is really the spread or the dispersion of the actual responses around the mean that you have calculated. The bigger the standard deviation, the less confidence you put in the calculated mean. The smaller the standard deviation, the more you know. See this mean here? This mean real. This is a meaningful mean. This is really speaking for the population. Are y'all still with me? You still got that? All right, good. So we like to interpret not only a mean with an interval scale or with a ratio scale, we also want to make a calculation of the standard deviation, and you can know that the standard deviation is the dispersion of the actual responses around the calculated mean. That's why it's told something is within 2 standard deviations of the mean. And remember all that thing that taught you in statistics? All I want you to know from marketing research is the smaller the standard deviation, the more confidence you can put in the mean that you calculate as a true representation of the population or the sample. Do you have that? Yeah. And I said ratio scales incorporate all properties, etc. Let's take a 10-minute break here now. We need it. So far we have talked about these 4 types of scales. Yeah? Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. I want to ask you something. Thinking through the examples that I gave you. Thinking through the examples that I gave you. Which of those scales are used to measure objective properties? Those are scales, properties that I can verify, like your age and your income. I can go and check records and verify. Or, for example, I told you, if you told me you're a male, I could actually take off your pants and check and make sure you have a penis. Which of those properties were physically verifiable? And which scales did they use to measure physical verifiable properties? And which scales did they use to measure feelings? Think back. Or look back through your notes. The nominal, and what else? The nominal and the ordinal I used to measure what? A lot of what? A lot of feelings. What else did I use to measure feelings? The interval. And what about the ratio? I tended to use that to measure what? Things like age, sales. Those would be what? Physically what? Objective verifiable properties. So when you look back, I tended to use the nominal and the ratio scales, if the respondent would let me, to measure objective physical verifiable properties like gender, age, income level. Or in terms of the nominal scale, age range, sales range, income range. And I use the interval and the ordinal scales to measure subjective properties. And when I talk about subjective properties, I'm talking about your perceptions of how you felt about pizza versus Royal Pavilion, your feelings and your perceptions. Those would be what I would call my subjective properties. And I use the interval and the ordinal scale to measure those. Essentially, perceptions, feelings, and attitudes are subjective properties, and here I'm calling them on this slide attitude measurement. Attitude measurement. Oh, attitude measurement. Attitude are what? Physically verifiable states. They're what? They're what? Mental states used by individuals to structure the way they perceive the environment and to guide the way they respond to it. So what I'm saying to you, and what I've said to you so far, even though I never said it outright, I just let you go and figure out for yourself. We tend to measure attitudes with interval and ordinal scales. How you rank one versus the other, or how you feel about one, how you feel about the other. In that case, that would be an interval scale. Y'all still with me? And they said they're what? Not physically verifiable states. They said they're mental states. They're mental states. Now, so far, I have given you some single line interval scales to measure attitudes. So, if we use the I like pizza example, I like pizza, strongly agree, agree, agree somewhat, disagree, strongly disagree. This is a single item measure of your looking for pizza. In other words, I only ask you one question of whether you like pizza or not. True? And you might have said to me what you would have said, Don. Strongly agree. So, if I had used a single item measure, I would have put down either 5 or 1. However I decided I'm going to put the scale in, then I would go in and put the same numbers, put it in SPSS the same way. If it was a strongly agree and a 5 on the questionnaire, I would type in a 5 if the person takes strongly agree. Y'all still with me? Single item measure. But suppose I get real ignorant and stupid. And I said, well, you can't just ask one question to figure out if someone like pizza or not, because he might not really be thinking it through. I might ask a question, I like pizza dough, I like pizza toppings, I like the taste of pizza, I like the texture of pizza. You know that when I work it out, John might not get back there to 5, because when I ask I like pizza dough, it might come down to agree somewhat. In other words, I might say, you cannot measure an attitude towards pizza with one question. It's the same if I ask you, I can bring it home now. I like you eat. I can bring it home now. I like you eat. Where would you go here, Don? For it got said to do with that black bag. Strongly agree. Yeah, you're a good example. So I'm saying there's a 5. But then I say to Don, UV, look, Don, I can't use a single item measure to measure you're looking for UE because there's so many aspects of UE. Do you like the lectures at UE? Lectures? Do you like the lecturers? Do you like the grounds? Do you like the extracurricular activities? Do you like the buildings? Do you like the staff in administration? Y'all understand what I mean? That is why when we are asking you to rate your evaluation of the lectures, of the course, it does have so many components and it's get you real safe. Because there's so many aspects that will come together to tell me whether you like UE or not. So we want to go with that single measure. We will ask you questions about, we would ask Dawn, all right, I like lectures at UE. Where you gonna go now, Dawn? Agree. That is a 4. I like the facilities at UE. Where you gonna go now, Don? A 3. I like the money-making prospects at UE. That's a question just for Don. Gotta be a 5. So really and truthfully, if I had gone with this, would that be true? Because when I begin to break it down into aspects, Don's average is really 4 plus 3 plus 5, which is 7 or 5 is 12 divided by 3 is what? He's really more tending towards an agree. So sometimes single item measures, they're too simplistic and they give you the wrong idea about the respondent or respondents. That's why we get into multiple item measures. Got that? You got that? Multiple item measures. And that is why, you see, that's the thing about attitudes, you know. When I ask you your age could only be one thing. But sometimes attitudes are so complex. Do you like living at home? All right, but then they got to decompose that, all right. Do you like the fact that your parents ain't charging your rent? Oh, I strongly agree. Do you like the fact that you have to live in a bedroom and you can design the whole house how you want? It coming down now to a disagree. So I would get a better picture of how you really feel about living at home if I use a multiple item attitude scale, because attitudes are complex. Are you all still with me? Yeah. So let me give you some variations of attitude scales here. The first two would obviously be the ordinal scale or the interval. All right? And with the interval, you can go, or even with the ordinal, you can go a single item, or you can go a multiple item. Because I could have asked Dawn several questions. Rank these. Rank lectures versus facilities versus money-making opportunities. I could have asked him to rank all of those on the ordinal scale, or I could have broken it down into several interval scales and let him give me his feeling on each aspect of UE. So with the ordinal scale, I would have asked one question, you know. I would have asked him to rank lectures versus money making, and he would have ranked them for me. Or with the interval, I would have broken it out into separate questions, and he would have agreed or disagreed on the same scale. So an ordinal scale is intrinsically a multiple item scale, an ordinal scale. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Y'all lost? Huh? I see when he lost me. This is a multiple item interval scale. I like the lectures, I like the facilities, that is a multiple item scale, interval. With an ordinal though, an ordinal is intrinsically a multiple item scale. Because when I tell you, rate the following aspects of UE in order of preference: lectures, facilities, money-making opportunities. What am I putting here? All the various aspects. So I have swooped what I would have done together individually with the interval scale into one ordinal scale. So when you put money-making opportunities as 1, lectures as 2, and facilities as 3, that is already a multiple item scale. Huh? I prefer this because I'm getting more information here. Based on what we discussed earlier, because this scale has more properties, I would not, look, we only use our ranking scales sometimes. You will find those are the least used scales out of these 3. You will find that most questionnaires will be populated with nominal scales and interval scales primarily. Nominal scales to measure the objective properties and interval scales to measure the subjective. You get the most part out of those 2. You would like to use the ratio scale to measure the objective properties, but we know that sometimes people aren't going to answer. See? So you will find that most questions, and what you will probably design for your project too, because by next week you should be able to work on your thing, and I will do a lot back and forth with you quickly. Okay, as soon as we finish next week's class, I want you to walk away and design the questionnaire and get it to me, certainly by the Friday, so I can start doing back and forth with you, because you never get it right. You've always got to do the back and forth, and I want to take you through the back and forth because that is part of the learning. So I don't necessarily want it right the first time. So I want to give you some variations now of attitude scales. I just showed you the ordinal, that is an attitude measurement scale. And I showed you the interval. And I said with the interval, you might want to have a single line, or you might want to have several what? Questions, because those several questions would allow you to tap into the complexity of the attitude. Okay, that is saying, not just saying I like UE, which is a single measure, but breaking out the various aspects of UE and then allowing you to measure to answer on the same interval scale for every aspect. And then I can calculate an average across of your responses across those aspects to come up to a real understanding of what your true feeling about UE is. Are y'all still with me? Huh? Still with me? Good. So far, we've talked about ordinal scales and interval scales, whether single item or multiple item, as attitude measures. I want to introduce you to a couple more now that you will see in your text. The first one I want to introduce you, so far we've talked about ordinal. These are attitude measurement scales. We've talked about ordinal, we've talked about interval, single item, or multiple item. And we said that the multiple item gives you a truer response given the complexity of attitudes. Today I want to also introduce you to the constant sum and the semantic differential. The constant sum is a variation of the ordinal scale, and the semantic differential is a variation of the interval scale. So the constant sum is a variation of the ordinal scale, and the semantic differential is a variation of the interval scale. I also want to say something. The constant sum is actually a combination of the ordinal and the ratio scales. That's why we like it so much, because it gives us more power. The constant sum is actually a combination of the ordinal and the ratio scales. Now I'll give you a minute to write that down, and then I will do some explanation of those last two attitude measurement scales, the constant sum and the semantic differential. I want to talk about the constant sum. I said the constant sum is actually a combination of the ordinal and ratio scales. Combination of the ordinal and ratio scales. So what I'm doing, right? All I'm doing with the constant sum scale is forcing you to think in the context of real numbers. Now remember, an ordinal scale just calls you to rank, right? An ordinal scale just calls you to rank. But now I'm not just letting you give me a position. I am enforcing real numbers on it so that I can get some additional power out of my traditional ordinal scale. Let me repeat that. A constant sum scale is a combination of an ordinal scale and a ratio scale. With the typical ordinal scale, all you can tell me is where Sandy Lane is ranked versus whoever. But I'm enforcing the number line onto that ordinal scale. So I'm bringing the ratio real number element of it. Watch how I can do that and how I come up with this constant sum scale. Rate the following hotels in the order of preference. Let the number of points attributed to each hotel total 100 overall. I've enforced the numbers on it. Watch. So now I have Sandy Lane, Royal Pavilion. We have Royal Westmoreland. the crane. And what was the last one? Accra. Originally, let me go back to you, Bradford. How you have rated them again on this ranking scale? You had crane number 1, 2. You have Royal Pavilion 3. Accra from Royal Westmoreland 5. So I just know where these rate in relation to one another, but they ain't no real numbers. There's no real equal distance between descriptors. But watch this now. If I tell you that I want you to divide 100 points over these, divide the 100 points and rank them for me. How much points do you can give crane? 40. How much you can give Sandy Lane? 'You only got 60 left. 30. How much you can give Royal Pavilion? 20. One more. That's 4. That's you only got 10 left for Royal Westmoreland Accra. 5 and 5. All right, 5 and 5. In his mind, 5 and 4 were the same thing. But what's happening here now? I know that he likes crane twice as much as he likes Sandy Lane because I have put real numbers onto that ordinal scale. So now I have distance in that ordinal scale. And that is the beauty of the constant sum because I can now do real calculations. This is now the ordinal scale here. The constant sum lifts the ordinal scale out of the realm of just order where you do not know the distance between the descriptors into the realm of a ratio scale. So I got some preference going on there, some order, and I also got some real numbers. So I can do real calculations with that. I can put them in position. I can do median, percentile, you name it, but I can also determine maybe even the mean rating because I got real numbers there. I can determine the mean rating. That don't make no sense with this scale though. But mostly I could say if you like X twice as much as you like Y, power, real power. Before I just knew that you like one more than the other, but now you know how much more you like one than the other. So that is where now, why we like that scale as market researchers. But let me tell you know what's the part with it? It's hard. And the more descriptors you put in here, suppose I ask you to divide 100 points over 10 hotels, scampering. As you go over more than 4 or 5, what the responses that they give start not to make much sense. That is the limitation with the constant sum scale. Because by the time he done give you all the points, he didn't even know to put Royal Westmoreland and Accra. So I don't even know if I can believe what he has put for those last two. Because he himself didn't know what to put. So we like this constant sum scale. But the problem with it is that as we increase the number of descriptors, it becomes less reliable. Are you with me? Good. But I like that scale. Useful scale. Because I can treat it. Like a ratio scale. And you know what's the sweet thing about it? It is an attitude scale that you can treat, like a scale that you're actually measuring physically verifiable properties. You folks out there that can't see this side of the board still following me? Good. All right, let's look at one more scale. And that's called the semantic differential scale. It looks like an integral scale, but it's slightly different. Say I ask you to, no, the semantic differential scale is a multiple item scale too. Okay? I may want you to rate the following aspects of KFC. In other words, I can ask you if you like KFC, and you might say, I like it, but then I also know they got a lot of different aspects of KFC. It is the taste of the food. It is if you think it's reasonable or not. It is the locations. It is if the place smell clean. It is if when you go there, the people just treat you nice. I remember I went to KFC a day and I called for something a few years ago. And all the women talking about the drink machine. I don't already think, you know, they sound like an idiot. And they're walking wrong. It's so bad. When they plan to give me white order, look, give me back my money, let me go to here, do. It was really over the top. So if I just ask you off the cuff one item question, about KFC, which I could do with a single item interval scale, I might not really get the true response. But let me break it down here now. And the semantic differential is actually like a variation of the multiple item interval scale. It's just that the descriptors are different. Where with the interval scale, I will ask you very important down to not important at all, or strongly agree down to disagree, all of them on the same level of agreement or importance, I will use descriptors like this. Rate the following aspects of KFC. Very price, very expensive, down to very reasonable. Okay? Then they could ask you to taste great, like cardboard. So I'm changing the descriptors each time to make it as the person would think. All right? Locate facilities. Super duper clean. Yeah, I can use things like that down here. Always nasty. Huh? If? Yeah, it's still. Not really. But watch. Suppose I ask you to rate all the various important aspects of a fast food restaurant. The price, the taste, the consistency, the location, the facilities, right? And suppose I ask 100 persons. And the average for, say this KFC, was about here, which is tending towards very expensive. And say the average taste was like cardboard. So this is the average response over the 100 people. And say the average on the facilities was like midway. The average response. Right? So here I'm not putting one person's response. I'm putting out what the average was over everybody. I can actually draw what we call a perceptual map. Because I could have asked the same questions for Shafet. And Shafet's average on price might be very reasonable. Taste might be in here. And I don't know if facilities might be here. So I can plot Shafet's line. And I can plot KFC's line. And I can see immediately where Shafet is weak compared to KFC and where KFC is stronger compared to Shafet. So I could work out the averages for the 100 people for KFC on price and the averages for 100 people for Shafet. So I could immediately walk me and say Shafet's strengths are the price, the taste, and they rank just about the same as KFC on facilities. So in terms of showing things and how people think, right? So I could actually draw, and when you present that in a report as a market researcher, you do an immediate competitor analysis on all the key aspects of a fast food restaurant, just so right there that the manager could look and see, and they can just look at that one diagram and say, these are our weaknesses, these are our strengths. Quick, easy, so. Right? But to make this scale work, and any multiple item scale work, you must know all the aspects that are important to the consumer, because sometimes you will do a focus group to find out all the factors that influence the choice of a consumer in picking up and choosing a fast food restaurant before you develop a multiple item interval scale, or before you develop a semantic differential scale, or any of the attitude scales for that matter, because you need to know which descriptors, which key factors should be included in this scale. What are the various aspects that are necessary to measure the overall attitude towards a fast food restaurant? You need to first do some qualitative research and talk to people about why they choose restaurants or what is important to them in the choice, so you know all the various aspects that you need to include on the scale. Because you might not be thinking about facilities, but when the focus group people keep saying, but that place is be real nasty though, immediately you know, oh, I need to have a question that measures facilities as well. Because for me, it's only thinking about whether the food tastes good and if it's consistently hot, but other people actually look around at the facilities. I did some work recently and people said some things about smells and looks. I was like, well, you never noticed that. Right? To get the full picture of all the various elements of the attitude, you might need to do some qualitative research before you can develop any of these attitude measurement scales. Does that make sense? So that is where you will see the qualitative research and the quantitative going hand in hand, where the qualitative will come before you develop the questionnaire. Are y'all still with me? Or you're looking at it right there. He's looking at it in the text on attitude measurement scales. It's on page 229. So there's an example of one done here. And then you can superimpose the competitions stats over that. And this will be an average across. Because remember, with the interval scales, we work out what? Means are what? Are what? Averages, which is the same thing. Right? So these will be the average points across the whole sample, where they rated it on whether it's old-fashioned or modern, whether it is aggressive or woo. Is that right? Yes, it's a good defensive, whether it's friendly. Oh, and this is a semantic differential profile of an Arizona Savings and Loan Association. So these are all the various descriptors that they use to talk about a financial institution, somebody they will go to. Because really and truthfully, you might think that things like friendly and unfriendly or aggressive and defensive are not important. But those things will be important because people say, I want a place, especially I'm putting on my savings, I want a place that seems aggressive in risk management and making investments. That's important to me. So this probably would have come out of some prior qualitative research, so they knew what were the adjectives that they should then put on that semantic differential scale, or what the question should be that they should use if they were using an interval scale. Y'all still got that? Yeah. So when you are designing your questionnaire, you have to make a decision whether you are going to use nominal scale descriptors, ordinal, interval, or ratio, right? And I said to you, normally if you want to measure subjective properties, you will use which types of scales? The ordinal and the interval. And if you're measuring objective, you try to use the ratio, but if you know it's sensitive, you're going to use a nominal. And I also said that the nominal allows you to do only frequencies and percentages, but by the time you get to a ratio scale, you can do any type of statistical procedures because it's real numbers. I said that, right? So if you need a lot of statistical precision, you can try to use a higher order scale, a scale that has more properties. We still there? We still on the same page? Good. Now I want to talk about balance versus unbalanced scales. I want to talk about balance versus unbalanced scales. Now, we have recognized as researchers, right, that people don't like to respond on the extremes of scales. They don't like to respond on the extremes of scales. I remember when I went to University of Florida a few years ago, there's a very well-respected market researcher there called Chris Janaszewski. He taught me marketing research. I don't know, me, I didn't like his teaching style, that's the truth, I didn't like it. He was a really consummate researcher. He's published in Journal Marketing Research must be about 2,500 times, but I don't know. His ability to convey concepts to me. Anyhow, we all have different gifts and talents. But I heard him make a statement that surprised me. He said when he first came to the university, and he looked at the forms that they gave to the student to evaluate the lecturers, he realized that if they kept up with that scale, a lot of the lecturers then gonna get promoted. Because the way the scale was designed, it wasn't making life good for the lecturers. In other words, it opened the door to too much negativity. And I never really figured out how Januszewski had designed the scale. But I will show you how you can use an unbalanced scale and force people to put down responses that really ain't true. Watch this. I like market research. Strongly agree. Agree. Agree somewhat. Disagree. That is an unbalanced scale. Why? There are too many agree responses. And I know if you look back and you think back, you might remember that you see a questionnaire like that. And you could do these sort of things when you want people to respond in certain ways. A balanced scale has an equal amount of negative and positive descriptors, and it has a midpoint. In this case, the midpoint should have been agree somewhat, or neither agree nor disagree. Because think about it for a minute. If human beings typically do not like to respond at the extremes of the scale, they're going to have people who ain't going to want to disagree because they don't want to be at the extreme, so they're going to end up there. All right? They ain't got that many. There wasn't a strongly disagree, where the persons who would have said that they strongly disagree, who really felt like they strongly disagree, but they're gonna really back down to disagree. But because disagree is the last point of this unbalanced scale, they're gonna end up here. The people who really like the lecturers or marketing research consider strongly agree, because it's positive. People don't mind being positive, you know. But when it comes to an extreme of disagreement or hate it, they might say, I don't want to so. So they're going to back down from the disagree to the agree somewhat. The people who really like it can strongly agree. And a few people might come in here and agree. The lecturers going to keep the jobs? Huh? I'm sure bet they're going to keep them. Because people will, as I said, they don't like to go to the extremes of the scale to say something negative. They're going to put something, oh, I really like that lecture. They're more open to responding to a strongly agree than a strongly disagree. If you don't have a strongly disagree category there for them, because you shoving an unbalanced scale on them, the chances of them agreeing is vastly increased. They're not looking at the scale to work out that they're doing. You just answering the questionnaire, ain't. That is an unbalanced scale. Don't put none for nobody to do. Ain't right. It is not ethical to use those. I'm not saying that is what Januszewski did, but that is one way that you can rig a scale. Now, number scale categories. You remember I just showed you there with the constant sum scale that eventually poor Buffett didn't even know what to put by the time you get to the bottom? If you've got a scale with too many scale categories, you'll be creating divisions in the consumer's mind that don't really exist. So you're going to get a lot of junk data because you are creating divisions that don't really exist in the consumer's mind. Let me show you what I mean by that. Getting a degree is extremely important to me. Very important. Important. Somewhat important. Slightly important. Not important, not important at all, extremely unimportant. How many descriptors that scale got? I've seen scales with 9 descriptors. I'm sorry, don't use them. I hate them. They don't make no sense to me. Because what's the difference there between extremely important and very important in your mind? Very important. Not important at all, extremely unimportant. What's the difference there between them two descriptors? You could tell me? I'm creating divisions that don't really, that it will force you to sit down and think, because you never thought about it like that. It was either very important and extremely important and very important, the same thing to you, right? Extremely, very important, the same thing. Do not create these minute divisions to try to say you got to scale a lot of descriptors if the descriptors don't really make sense in the mental schema of the respondent. Excuse me. So I don't like scales with too many properties. I still don't like them with too few, because it's like you are not really getting differences that exist. Because if I say if you agree or disagree, I can still make the scale a bit stronger by saying, do you strongly agree or do you strongly disagree? So I can put in 4 descriptors there as opposed to 2. I will get some differences there. Y'all understand what I'm saying? But when I am deciding that I can use an 8 or 9 point scale, even sometimes the 7 point scales to me is be a waste. I like the 5 point scales. Very important, important, somewhat important, or neither important nor unimportant, not important, not important at all. Or strongly agree, agree somewhat, or neither agree nor disagree, disagree, strongly disagree. 5 point scales work okay. Y'all get what I'm saying? You don't need to have all those descriptors. Now there's something I want to show you. Up to this point from last week, y'all getting saturated, you can see. I ain't getting another break short. Oh shoot, there's no time for break. Up to this point, we were saying that you measure attitudes and opinions and all types of things using open-ended questions, right? So you will go to a questionnaire and you will see, how do you feel about UE? And they will respond. And then you will have to put your bias on that to interpret. But if you ask now, I like UE, strongly agree, agree somewhat, disagree, strongly disagree. Am I not, with this scale or this continuum, capturing the range of feeling about UE? So that's why we like to measure attitudes using interval scales more so than using open-ended questions. It reduces the bias. And it allows me to calculate a mean feeling. When I have these open-ended questions, can I calculate a mean feeling? No, I have to put my bias on it and then just say most of the people didn't like it and most didn't. Not when you use an interval scale. The interval scale gives you the power of numbers, but it allows you to capture the range of feeling. So the person would have said, I love you with all my heart. That would have been the person who would have probably strongly agreed and said, I hate it. That would have been the person who would have come in the writer around strongly disagree. So that's why we like these interval scales. They give us the power, kinda, of the open-ended response. Do you understand that? That's why you will see now there's less and less open-ended questions on questionnaires and more interval scales. Because it captures the gamut of feeling on a continuum. We still there? All right. And force versus non-force choices. Now that was a very important point I just told you, that you can use scales now instead of open-ended questions on questionnaires. Force versus non-force choices. I like UE. Suppose I meet some boy on the street and I hand him the questionnaire. Answer that. I like UE. Do you like UE? Strongly agree, some disagree. But the person never went to UE. They don't even know what UE stands for. What they're going to put on that, where they're going to answer. Huh? Agree somewhat? Suppose I had neither agree nor disagree there. Is that where they should respond? No. No, because neither agree nor disagree means what? That I have experienced UV and I know I can't make up my mind whether I like it or not. Hold on a minute. That's why you will see scales like this, and then over here on the other side, you might see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then over here coded as a 9 or 99 is a don't know. Those are non-responses. Do not, if you don't have a scale with a don't know, and you give a questionnaire to somebody who's never experienced the phenomenon before, where are they going to respond? They better be out there by the don't know. So when you know that you are handing out questionnaires blind and that some of the questions on the questionnaire may not apply to the individuals, you must have what we call a non-forced response, where you have an out here, which is a don't know. Don't know and neither agree nor disagree is not the same thing. This is an ambivalent feeling about something you have experienced. This means I never experienced it, so I don't know. So when you are designing your response categories and you know it's something that everybody might not know the answer to, you have your scale and then out here to the side, you got a little response for, I don't know. And you will just code those as missing responses. All right, good. And I'll tell you something else. They got some wicked people, right? I know somebody who told me, when I was doing my PhD, everybody that coming in at the midpoint, at this neither agree nor disagree. I didn't like that. Why couldn't say whether they like it or not? So he took out all the responses. So at the end of the day, he took out all the people at the midpoint. He only analyzed the people who were either on one side or on the next. You could decide if you think that was the right thing to do or not. Because sometimes there are scales where you are either forced to what? Agree or forced to disagree. There's no midpoint. Have you ever seen scales like that? So a person can be kind of and feel or not. And there will always be people like that. They got people here now that you be for 5 years and they still don't know whether they like it or not. What's wrong with that? Huh? Because when you do this, right, you break the continuum, you know. The continuum is broken. I'm not able to locate myself in the midpoint where I say I agree somewhat or I need to agree nor disagree. You really take this what was an interval scale man and you mash it up and it's almost like a nominal scale because you have broken the continuum. Y'all understand what I mean? The continuum is continued when you have a midpoint where the person can respond. So I'm ambivalent. I don't really know. But here you're with a scale like that, you're forcing them to either what? Agree or disagree. And if you don't have a don't know, you're forcing them to respond on a scale where they don't know. Oh Lord, y'all dying today. Y'all dying. Okay, I ain't gonna force it today. All I want y'all to do is to look here at this scale of inner directedness. What type of scale is that? And you need to walk with this for the next class. What type of scale is this scale of inner directedness? How would you describe it?